Hey everyone, it's Bill from Blue Collar Commander, and we're here bringing you a deck tech on Tana the Bloodsower and Ishai Ojutai Dragonspeaker. Since Commander Legends 2, I've been trying to find a commander to do background tribal for. First I thought Sisay was the way to go, because she can just search them out and always get the one she needs. But then I read the backgrounds a little better, and I saw that they affect both commanders, so maybe Partners was the way to go. I bounced back and forth between Ishai Ojutai Dragonspeaker and Ravos Soul Tender, but eventually decided to go with Ishai because of a certain combo I'll point out later in the video. I also wanted to do this build because I've always wanted to make a deck around Tana the Bloodsower, but always found her to not pair well with too many other commanders. Her 2/4 body kinda makes it hard for her to get in unless you're playing Voltron. But then, backgrounds came out, and I thought I found a way to get through. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the deck tech. We'll start out with the meat and potatoes of the deck. It's a background tribal deck, so we're gonna have plenty of backgrounds. We're not going to play every single background we can, some don't really make sense in the deck, like Passionate Archaeologist. Most of them are going to focus on giving us little bits of value or pumping up our commander with something like Double Strike. But there's one in particular that I thought was really interesting, and that would be Hardy Outlander. Hardy Outlander reads, commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, another target creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is that creature's power. This effect is particularly powerful in this deck, because Ishai gets bigger every time your opponents cast a spell, so he's inevitably going to be huge. So then, when this triggers, he gives his power to Tana, but then Tana gives her power, after being boosted, back to Ishai, so both of them get a huge boost from one single card. On top of Hardy Outlander, we're also going to play Veteran Soldier, Popular Entertainer, Far Traveler, Dragon Cultist, Guild Artisan, Cloakwood Hermit, Flaming Fist, Feywild Visitor, Candlekeep Sage, Raised by Giants, Inspiring Leader, Sword Coast Sailor, Master Chef, Tavern Brawler, and Noble Heritage. All these little effects really add up over the course of a game, and plus they're all enchantments, so they really help out with the next couple of sections we're going to go over. If background tribal was the meat and potatoes of the deck, then the lifeblood of the deck is definitely Enchantress. I think we can all agree as Magic players that drawing cards is probably the most important part of the game. Maybe not the funnest, but definitely important. So we're going to have quite a few cards that let us draw cards every time we play an enchantment, so every background we get, hopefully we'll get some card. This section includes Enchantress's Presence, Sithis Harvest Hand, Tuvasa the Sunlit, Satyr Enchanter, Setessan Champion, Verduran Enchantress, and Mesa Enchantress. All these little guys are going to keep our hands stacked so we can keep playing the game. Sticking to our Enchantment Matters themes a little bit longer, we're also going to play Heliod's Pilgrim, Moonblessed Cleric, Sterling Grove, Eutropia the Twice Favored, and Calyx, Destiny's Hand. The first two are going to be tutors that help us dig for our win pieces. Eutropia has Constellation, and she gives a +1/+1 counter and flying to target creature when it happens. We're usually going to give these to Tana, so she'll get flying so she can get through even without the help of Ishai. And Calyx is here to help us dig for enchantments, or maybe even double as removal. And hey, who doesn't like a good replenish effect? In this section, I almost forgot Hallowed Haunting. This card lets us go wide whenever we cast enchantments by giving us spirit creature tokens. And if we get enough enchantments on board, our creatures get flying and vigilance. That lets Tana get through even more. Finally, the last part of our Enchantress build is going to be counting the number of enchantments on the board and giving us a big boost based on how many there are on the field. Besides Sphere of Safety, all of these cards are going to be pumping a creature based on the number of enchantments on the battlefield. These are primarily going to be going on our commanders because swinging for 21 when we have a bunch of enchantments lying around and then putting these on them is going to be pretty easy. This section includes Ethereal Armor, Ancestral Mask, Catilda Dawnheart Martyr, and Catilda's Rising Dawn, Michiko's Reign of Truth, All That Glitters, Nettle Cyst, and the previously mentioned Sphere of Safety for some big protection. In our last section before ramp and lands, we're going to be having some stuff covering removal, some additional card draw, and probably some cool toys we just want to play with. Starting with removal, we're going to have Blasphemous Act, Oversimplify, Doomscar, Song of the Dryads, Cindervine, Seal of Primordium, Seal of Cleansing, and Swords to Plowshares. We're trying to run as much enchant removal as possible. This will give us a higher enchantment count, constellation triggers, and enchantress triggers for more card draw. These also pair well with a card we'll go over later in the video. We have a lot of card draw, but we're also going to be playing Rish Card's Expertise and Return of the Wildspeaker for even more. With our engine built and our plan in place, we still have a few empty slots we can fill with utility pieces, and maybe a couple of pieces we just want to play with to see how they do. Norset's Reversal is here because sometimes it's fun to take a spell and get a copy of it yourself. Hadana's Climb and Fight Rigging both help pump your stuff, and maybe get some extra value once they're used up. Basilisk Collar gives Tana Death Touch, which makes her trample get through and get lots of tokens. Insult to Injury doubles his removal and also lets Tana get through with double damage. Wand of Wonder is just a cool mana sink that we'll get to activate every now and then. Rolling a 20 sure feels good. And lastly, Sylvan Scrying is a pretty powerful card in this deck, as it allows us to search for one of the few lands I actually recommend for the deck. And with that, we'll move on to lands. And with that, there's only two real suggestions I have. The first one, I think being the most important, is definitely Hall of Heliod's Generosity. This allows us to get back any auras we want to get back into play, or it allows us to get back a background if we lose it and we really need it back. The second's a lot more expensive, and I'd really only include it if you can afford it or if you already have one, and that would be Serra's Sanctum. Since it taps for a white mana for every enchantment you control, you can get some huge mana gains out of it. Other than that, we're going to build our mana base on the budget you have. You can either play a bunch of Shocks or Triomes, or get simple and play things like Gates and other tap lands. My particular build will have a deck list in the description, so you can see how I took my mana base. Closing out the video, we'll end on ramp. We're going to try and keep the ramp cheap at 2 mana so we can play lots of cards, and we're also going to play some enchantment ramp, that way we can get more Enchantress triggers. This section includes Soul Ring, Wild Growth, Fertile Ground, Rampant Growth, Farseek, Arcane Signet, Sanctum Weaver, and Overgrowth. With that, we're going to wrap up the video. In my final notes, I'm going to point out that when I play this deck, it's a blast. But every now and then you get your board wiped of all your enchantments, and it's kind of hard to recover from. That might be the only thing I'd work on. Crystal Chimes lets us get all of our enchantments from our graveyard back into our hands. If we have a Reliquary Tower on board, we could probably recover our board pretty easily. But anyway, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.